What's up, everybody? AJ here, host of the Madden NFL 12 podcast. And this is an excerpt from this week's podcast, which you can download right now on iTunes. Be sure to subscribe, leave us a comment, and rate it for us. Enjoy. Our next guest has been the subject of much discussion here on the podcast, but coincidentally, he's joining us for the first time this week. Ladies and gentlemen, it is none other than Madden NFL 12 gameplay designer Mike Scantleberry. What's up, Mike? Or Scant. Everybody calls you Scant around here.
Yes. Thank you, Andrew.
All right. I have some strategy questions. First of all, you're pretty much the most dominant person up here. We put you at least in the top 3. These guys put you in the top 3. I say you're number 1.
Actually, I think you're the one that said he was top 3.
We can go back and look at this, but I promise you.
Is there anybody
I'll plug that in the
better than you,
podcast if I have to.
I don't know. I think at some point maybe someone will have a chance, I guess, but currently nobody has proven that. All competitors have currently been defeated.
Okay, so first of all, explain to us what your job is for those who don't know what a gameplay designer does.
All right, so pretty much we're the people who actually take the dream and lay it out in a format that engineering can more simply understand so that they can implement that into the game.
The dream. What do you mean by the dream? Just you're making sure that
any dream that a designer may have. I mean, first you have a vision, and then after you have a vision, you have to be able to articulate that vision and lay it out in a format that engineers could understand. Not every engineer has a clear understanding of football. They don't know all of the ins and outs. So
sure.
You got to break it down into pieces. It's somewhat complicated.
So a hook zone, you got to tell them how a hook zone should work, for example. Or a pitch play, who's supposed to be blocking who, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Who's supposed to block who's supposed to be where on the play, and you have to help come up with the systems of how that is actually going to occur. Yeah. Because there is such a multitude of various possible outcomes on every single play.
Yep, Scant's the guy who this year a lot of you guys have noticed like suction blocking's gone out of the game. That's his working. He's the guy that goes and improves zone defense in the game and makes sure all the core gameplay features are working how they should to create the best simulation football product possible.
Thank you, sir.
Very good. All right, so Scant, you're obviously pretty good at the game. You played a lot. What are some tips that you would give people who maybe don't even want to risk it playing online? They're just, they're kind of scared. They like the comfort of playing against the CPU on pro difficulty or whatever, and they're just kind of afraid to go take some guy on online. What would you give them as far as tips and tricks to kind of succeed?
I would say the first thing someone probably wants to do is develop a versatile running game. That's probably something a lot of people don't focus on, but it's really a significant game changer. If you develop a versatile running game so that somebody can't predict which run is coming, that is incredibly effective. It's a lot less risk involved than there is in passing. So you can be able to control clock, have the ball in your hand, put your defender on his heels. There's nothing that feels worse than sitting on the other side of the ball and somebody is just pounding it down the field on you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I've had, as far as defense though, let's talk about that a little bit first. What kind of schemes do you suggest playing defense? You don't want to run the same thing over and over, obviously, but do you think there are some safe options, just like mixing it up in the running game as well?
Well, I try to follow a format that a lot of NFL teams follow. So generally I utilize a good amount of cover 3. I utilize some cover 4, and at different times utilize cover 2 as well, mixing it up, depending on the way people have to look at it, because if you want more deep coverage, right, you want to make sure that you have more guys deep. So you'll need those 3 deep DBs like you get with a cover 3. Then if you want to stop underneath, you want to make sure you have cover 2 so that you have those 5 zones underneath sitting there, making it real hard to squeeze something in or to throw to the flat.
And do you suggest people throw in a blitz every once in a while, or is that too risky for a beginner?
Yeah, I would say the thing about it that I see a lot of users do, and especially beginner users is that immediately, as soon as somebody is doing something effective offensively, they immediately call a blitz and they just leave one-on-one, and then that receiver is able to make one move and break a safety because it was a safety covering him instead of a cornerback. So you really want to make sure that you stay more controlled. I generally try to stay to coverage most of the time. I'll call a blitz when I believe my opponent doesn't expect it at all. Okay.
As far as playing online, I've faced some people who threw a couple, and I'm not the best here at the game by any means, but there was a guy throwing some fade routes to me. He was within about the 15-yard line, somewhere in the red zone, and he's throwing a fade route to Calvin Johnson, who in real life, that guy, I mean, he's got incredible hands, incredible ups. The dude's just a monster.
Yes.
How do you slow down? Because you told me that you're pretty good at it, and I've seen you do it. How do you suggest slowing down the fade route?
Well, Calvin Johnson is one of those freaks of nature, looking to be on pace to set a new receiving record in touchdowns this year. But what you really have to do is just have more defenders around him, and that's going to make it harder for him to bring it down if there's someone around there to really lay a hit on him. So what I usually do a lot of times, because I run a fair amount of 3-4, is I'll run the 3-4 cover 2 where the outside linebackers run a buzz. They run a buzz zone, which is what a lot of people would know as a curl to flat zone. And then generally the cover 2 corner will be in the flat, but he'll get depth as well. And you'll also have a safety coming over top. So Calvin Johnson will end up getting triple covered. Now, as we saw in that Dallas game, he might still, I guess, pull one down every once in a while like real life, but it makes it very difficult for somebody to pull that off. It's definitely not money in that regard if you have multiple defenders out there.
All right. Scant, it's been cool having you on here. Do you have any more suggestions before you leave, just for guys wanting to get online and maybe have at least some success winning games?
I would say just a versatile running game, something that utilizes dives, power O's, counters, and a toss at the right time against the right front. A lot of people fail running tosses because they're not paying attention to the front that's out there, and everybody I know who gets better, a lot of times that's novice, they get better because they start improving their running game. Another thing that's key that a lot of people don't use enough of is you got to start utilizing in routes, out routes, like the hot routes to make guys do ins, do outs. Like those routes can get open underneath and people keep forcing it deep and having turnovers. Sure. And you'll find those holes once that tight end goes vertical and he's going to hit that out and you time that pass. You'll find those holes within a cover 2, a cover 3, a cover 4, any zone defense, even against man. If he's the right tight end, he'll be able to break that linebacker. I mean, it's very tough to cover that. The same thing for the right slot receiver, depending on who's covering him. So I would say running things like that and probably throwing in a slant flat pattern, like the play quick slants. You'll see it out of various formations, whether it's a 2x2 or I believe we even have some that's a 1x3 or 3x1. You'll see that slant flat pattern out there, and you just got to make the right read of whether you want to hit the slant or go to the flat.
That was just an excerpt from this week's Madden NFL 12 podcast. Be sure to subscribe and download the full version, which is totally free on iTunes.